Hello, everybody, and welcome to a different scheduled day for Overwatch than we usually have, but it is still Overwatch Day as it was a reschedule. But today we will bring you exciting Overwatch gameplay between the teams of Thomas College, A Team, and University of Michigan. But you still will have your normal games later on this week, as it's going to be. It's just a reschedule, of course, but you will still have games later on this week for Overwatch A-Team, as well as League of Legends tomorrow. That's right. League of Legends has a game scheduled for tomorrow at 7. So be tuned in for that. It's going to be the game that determines whether or not the League of Legends team goes into playoffs. I do not know exactly the team that they are facing, but it should be an interesting game nonetheless. Today, we are going to also be joined by our main man, Cargo Tokens, here on the secondary casting, that color casting that you all know and love.
Hello. Hello, it's good to be back. Just A-Team this time. I'm excited.
Yeah, I know. I'm very excited as well, as it's been a couple of weeks. This was supposed to be the game that happened 2 weeks ago, but due to just college breaks and spring break and all that, they decided to reschedule for today. So a little bit out of whack, but nothing we can't handle.
Yeah. And hopefully a lot of these players who are playing some Overwatch over breaks as to not get too rusty.
Hopefully, because I know some of them definitely don't enjoy playing the game nearly as much, but I know everyone's committed nonetheless. Because, everyone's got a life. You got college, you got just any jobs, probably, just all kinds of
Family
stuff out.
trips, you going skiing or something, I don't know.
Exactly. So Overwatch can't be the main focus all the time, but these players are dedicated still to the team. They still play, they still practice, and they bring their all regardless of the time. So today we are going to be, it's a standard lineup. I mean, it's never really going to be a different lineup if you ask me, but Killer and Neon on the DPS per usual. Going to see some interesting stuff there. Bookshelf and Rice Juice is going to be on the support per usual, and Aquilian is going to be the tank. Same stuff that we've seen over and over again throughout the entirety of the semester, and I believe last semester as well.
What is it? I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll take a page out of the B team. We'll see the Aquilian DPS, the Rice Juice tank. We'll
Exactly.
mix everything. We'll mix everything up. Who knows?
Play some mystery heroes and all that based off bans. It was quite interesting to watch that game, that's for sure. And for those of you who tuned in, you know what we're talking about. But
The turret.
the turret, it didn't happen.
If I see a wall turret today, I'll be upset. I'm gonna jump up and down with steam coming out of my ears.
Exactly. It's unlikely though, as we have not really seen the A-Team play the Torbjorn before. They kind of just tend to stick to like a Venture for Killer, and Neon tends to stick to like the Tracer, the Pharah sometimes, a couple of picks like that.
Your Sojourn kind of play, it's a lot more consistent heroes, I'd say. Even though Torbjorn can definitely put like a presence, some pressure on like those like Tracer flankers. Like, yeah, he's no Sojourn. He's no,
Torbjorn can only do so much, and if he can't do that, then he usually gets outperformed.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of curious what we'll see for the support line. If we'll keep seeing this like Juno Kiriko that Thomas seems to enjoy running. Providing a good amount of utility and healing on all parties, especially now with Kiriko's perks, allowing her to even kind of like match a bit of healing with doing DPS, being able to shoot out healing papers while she hits primary fires.
Exactly.
And of course, Juno now able to get an extreme amount of mobility through her perks, or be able to turn herself into a third damage dealer practically with those crits. So
exactly.
Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting, and I mean, who knows? Maybe the meta has changed in a couple of weeks. I don't keep up with the game too much, but you never know.
Yeah.
Teams like to sometimes pull out the craziest things.
hmm I'm
So,
imagining for the tank lineup, we'll see a pretty similar looking situation as it has been. Your Mogwas, your a little bit of
Ramatras,
Hazard, Ramatra, and then for like dive maps, you either play Diva or Winston, whichever kind of
whichever it just suits the
Yeah.
team better,
Well,
probably.
unless you're like a ball team, which Thomas
Is
is
not.
not.
They have never been a ball team, at least for the time that I've been here, and
I,
that's been
I
like
mean,
four
hey, one of like
years.
the 3 clips we have on the Twitter is me playing ball, so
That is true. That is true. So, and in an alternate universe, it was a thing. We're like the best ball
Yeah.
team in the state, but
hmm
not that universe. Not today's
Oh, I'm
universe.
sure we're still the best ball team in the state. Don't get me wrong. I'm calling you out,
Exactly.
Bates College.
And of course, while you wait for bans, let's talk about the lineup for the other team for University of Michigan, as that who is Thomas is facing again. As a reminder, we have what looks to be Claymore and a Grass Toucher as DPS. We will have Yamitra and a Doppelganger as support, and then Dino on the tank if we are going based off the lineups. Of course, we'll be able to see in game, but just based off the lobby lineup, that is exactly what we're looking at.
Yeah. I know that name does sound familiar, even like back in like my time, I should say, and I
So
remember
does
him being a pretty formidable opponent.
So
So
does Doppelganger. I'm pretty sure a couple of these people we would recognize from our time playing.
yeah,
As
probably a
I
few years
imagine there's
ago.
still some people who were
Yeah,
like
sophomores now seniors
sophomores
or
now seniors or something like
seniors going
that.
for masters, things like
Exactly.
that.
And so as we start getting into the game after it's been a while, but we do have some bans from Thomas. Thomas got the first ban today, and it looks like it's going to be a Samoa ban. Not
Uh,
too surprising, as we haven't seen Thomas play that a lot recently, at least for the A
yeah.
team.
Yeah, we've definitely not seen the A team do any kind of Samoa plays. They team just tend to stick to things like Ilios and your Lijiang
Lijiang.
Towers, a more standard affair, I guess you could say.
Exactly. And it looks like University of Michigan will have the first pick, and it looks like they will be taking us to Ilios, is the map of
Ilios,
choice.
that's an exciting map. I think it's a map where both dive and kind of like your more rushdown comps are available to you, if that is what you're seeking to do. So,
It should be interesting to see what happens, as we don't really know what University of Michigan can pull out of their pocket, and we kind of have seen what Thomas has been able to do, but as we go into the game, we are going to find out very quickly. And it looks like
yeah.
we'll be starting on Lighthouse as well. A nice little
Mhm.
what you might think could be like a dive map, but also has great brawl potential here in this little objective.
Yeah. This map, I think, actually is one of the greatest examples of kind of like that rock, paper, scissors design people kind of like to debate, where it's like, oh, the whole like death ball versus poke versus dive, where like dive beats poke on this map, but poke meets death ball and death ball beats dive because there's no dive target in the death ball. So it's kind of interesting to see what teams kind of go to play. Looks like we'll be seeing a bit of more of a dive kind of composition for both teams, with the Winston by Claymore and the Diva on Aquilian. We kind of see that this dive tank matchup. It looks like they're also going to be very reliant on, if they do keep the Zenyatta, of course, that the Zenyatta kind of engaging these fights with the Discord Orb. So their DPS can get these picks, but of course could be a very vulnerable target to Aquilian and Killer, and I assume
Mm-hmm.
Neon when he hops on over either a Tracer or a Sojourner or something.
Exactly. And I was about to say, I doubt we see the Lucio pick stay on, as Lucio Zen's not a great backline, and we do see the
Farah!
swap onto the Ana. The Ferret gonna be a little interesting here. Will provide some good value, but you still have to watch out for the Sojourn and the Ana and the Zen. They can still put out some good damage here. And as we look,
That
both
actually is going to make
teams,
this difficult. Yeah.
it is. The Discord Orb is definitely a formidable ability, even with all the changes and nerfs and buffs it's gone through over the years. We can see here Claymore looking to try to get a dive onto this high ground, but Aquilian on this Diva is going to provide a bit more of an anti-dive than what they're looking for. And it looks like Dino actually finding a nice pick on the side where Killer was. I didn't exactly see where he was, but Claymore going in, 1 HP, will have the bubble to get out and has LOS of his supports to get out. No one's captured the point yet, but it looks like Thomas is going to just let the Tracer... I have lied, they're not. They're actually instead going to go on this point and try to fight for it to prevent them from getting the tick immediately. Aquilian going to dive out, and it looks like they will still get the first point for University of Michigan. Claymore, 1 HP, so close to falling, but able to be sustained. Doppelganger finding Killer there, nice little LOS there. As you can see, the supports just kind of have free reign. Like, all of this...
I think it's going to be so hard for Killer to get value in this matchup because the Winston is going to be able to block so much of, like, the Venture's kind of possibility. And unless the Venture can actually get up onto this high ground, which is going to be very hard because they're making it so hard for Aquilian's D.Va to make any sort of space.
Exactly.
I'm not... The Venture pick is going to be really difficult. You see it kind of wrapping around here, but it's already going to be, like, jumped on and contested. And it's weird to say that the character who can fly is less mobile than, like, a Tracer, but honestly, I think Grass Toucher's Tracer has just been able to kind of brawl with Dino a lot more than the Pharah has been, because the Pharah kind of has to keep the Winston in check. So,
exactly.
Interesting to see what Thomas will do here next.
It's very interesting. I think that they should try to look for supports. We see a Pulse come out almost onto Killer. It does miss, unfortunately, but the idea was there. We see a Nano Boost onto Claymore as well, looking to go after the backline. Aquilian and Killer going on the backline there, but it's so hard for Thomas's supports to follow up. I mean, look at the distance between them. That's a lot of space to cover, and unfortunately, Killer's going to follow as well as Aquilian, and Thomas still has not really made any progress whatsoever.
Yeah, Juno and Kiriko just simply do not have, like, that same range that Ana and Zen do. Like, granted, it is a fairly vulnerable backline. Like, if basically it's all reliant on the Sleep Dart hitting and the Monkey actually being able to peel. But if they are able to kind of peel out of there with, like, hitting a good nade you saw there onto Aquilian and Killer, which got Killer killed, then it's going to be really hard to dive, and they can still pump out range at insane distances, especially on that high ground.
Exactly, and now we see a dive coming out here onto Doppelganger and Dino. The barrage from Neon finding both of them, so now it's just the Ana alive, and they decide to isolate the Ana. The Sleep getting defense matrix. The Satellite Vector coming out from Juno, maybe not needed, but it is going to help secure the fight into the overtime, which it might be helpful as we do see Claymore pop the Primal, maybe just trying to sustain to provide any sort of potential for the team to get back and fight, but ultimately just going to be an escape tool to try to recontest afterwards, as they are at 99%. They only need this one fight.
2 ults committed by Thomas there, which, like, kind of does hurt, but at least you got the tank called out.
Dino finding a nice right click
your
onto
Juno
the Rice Juice there. As you just said, it is going to be painful. Killer up in the air, kind of stuck. The D.Va Bomb actually finding Ymitra. And now Killer going after Dino with the ult will probably find the kill there, as there's not really much support, as the supports were taken out.
Yeah,
But
Thomas does a pretty solid hold there, kind of a good recovery. The only thing now is that they're only going to have this rush going, so that's going to be an excellent stagger battle on the side of Thomas. Killer getting it onto Claymore. But you're really going to need Neon to build this barrage, which granted, I think he built the first fight on this point. And you're really going to need this rush to get a ton of value. A good build by Bookshelf there.
We do see Grass Stitcher here going on to point to try to force them down, but it looks like Neon is going to be the one to try to force them out. The rush coming out from Bookshelf up there on the high ground. We do see Killer getting a double kill. A Pulse coming out does get stuck onto Neon, and now this Tracer is going to be on this objective. Both supports are going to force her out, as Thomas does have the advantage here, as both the backline and Ymitra even there is going to fall due to the Killer and Bookshelf rush combo.
Yeah.
So
you actually see a lot of Venture's power there. Now that Venture doesn't have to close that distance, they kind of have to engage into like Venture's like effective range. Neon's Killer, correct me, has been getting a lot more value, I gotta say. And now a big ultimate coming into this fight, but granted, the other team is gonna have almost 4 of their own.
It's a dangerous almost 4. The 3 they have right now are pretty dangerous in comparison to the barrage. We do see Dino with this overclock here. Does have the extra charge as well. Looking for a pick, but Thomas playing correctly and avoiding LOS. It's going to go down. The Transcendence being forced out after Neon goes and ults. A little camera issue there, but it doesn't matter as Thomas is on this objective. We're going to see Aquilian get demeched here as Killer and Bookshelf find 2. Killer with the activation coming in, finding Claymore. Raishu's going to fall, and now it's a 3v2. Only 1 support for the side of Thomas, but it should be enough, even with Aquilian out of mech, as it's 99 to 99, and Grass Toucher is unable to touch the objective without dying, thus bringing Thomas to what was a very close call. Will instead take away Lighthouse, bringing the map a 0-1.
I think that was an excellent kind of recovery by Thomas there. You see that kind of all starts with Aquilian and Killer actually engaging onto that backline. You see Aquilian going after Doppelganger on the Zen. Actually, I think one of the biggest problems there by the side of... What is this team's name, by the way? Do we know?
University of Michigan.
University of Michigan's problem was that they actually split their supports there. I think that was due to just like some positioning issues. The Zen was up on the above the point, while the Ana was still up on the other high ground. And because they were so split, the like things like Sleep Dart and Nade couldn't get their full value. And that's kind of what let Thomas get in the door. And then, ooh, now we see a ball on the side of University of Michigan, which should be very interesting. No composition changes on the side of Thomas. But it'll actually be really interesting to see if this ball is going to get value against the kind of more Kiriko and Juno backline.
It is going to be interesting because Bookshelf does have a Bell and a TP as well as like wall climb and stuff, and Neon's just kind of in the air. So maybe they're hoping to get a little bit more dive value where the Winston couldn't. Maybe it's because there's no high grounds nearly as much as that previous map, but it'll be interesting to see. But with the ball being kind of the focus, there is no front line per se, as now you see the ball is going in but doesn't have the opportunity to even go in, as 3 members of University of Michigan have already fallen before the fight even really began.
Yeah. You actually see an excellent engagement with Thomas, realizing that the ball is like the ball tracer is trying to dive your backline. So instead of just waiting for the dive to happen and reacting to it, they took the initiative and they went on to the University of Michigan. They actually changed over to the Cassidy by Dino on the side of University of Michigan. I think that's an excellent change to kind of keep this Pharah in check, because before you really didn't have much.
I mean, not only that, but we also see Claymore swap to the D.Va as well to match not only Aquilian's D.Va, but also to probably pressure Neon just that little bit more. And now we're going to see both teams kind of just building ultimates. Thomas is a slight bit ahead, but as you can see, the pressure already coming out as they all just focus Neon, finding the issue. Unfortunately, it looks like Claymore is going to get demeched for it, but both supports as well are down for both teams, actually. It's a 2v3. Aquilian is almost to the bomb, but it's just Killer and Baby D.Va here on the objective. Grass Toucher and Dino on the point. Recall getting forced up by Grass Toucher, and they will find the final picks there. Neon immediately swapping over to the Soldier, not even going to stay on the Pharah. University of Michigan does manage to get a flip at Thomas's 50%, so they will get 10%, not even 9%, almost 10, and the flip's going to go back over.
Excellent kind of hold there by Aquilian and Killer to kind of keep that progress going and let Neon get back just in time. I really like the Sojourn a lot more. Cassidy was going to put a lot of pressure onto your D.Va and especially the Pharah, so switch over to the Sojourn now kind of keeps the Cassidy in check in a way. And that Zen, because just a good right click is just going to take them out.
Exactly. This Zen and Ana have been sitting kind of in the same spot. Zen mostly, the Ana kind of rotating where needed. But we do see a Transcendence, Nano, and High Noon on the side of University of Michigan. We do see the Nano come out here onto Claymore with the rush, the High Noon coming out, the High Noon finding Neon. We do see the rush and Excavation not really getting anyone, just kind of providing utility. The Excavation, though, in the backline. Rice Shoes does fall. Doppelganger having to use the Transcendence here. A lot of ults committed for both sides. But it looks like University of Michigan will come out on top once Thomas hits 95%. But now they only have this D.Va bomb to work with.
That is a rough fight if you're Michigan, because all Thomas commits, I think the Bookshelf ult got Ajax there. I could be wrong, unless it was just.
I think it did come out. I think it was just mostly just across the point, and the fight took place over here. So it was just kind of hard to get value.
But now necessarily. They have little to work with. They need a pick, and they need to not get picked.
That's exactly what happens, though. We see the pick come out. We see the D.Va bomb being used in response to getting demegged, but no one falls to it. Neon finds a nice pick on Yamitra immediately before the fight begins, opening that window for that satellite vector from Rice Juice. And with that, it's going to close out this first map, as Thomas is going to take Ilios 2-0, bringing the series 1-0 as we have just started.
That is actually just some of the power of the Sojourn, because like as much as I'll be honest, I really did enjoy like the Pharah, just being able to get those like long range across the map like headshots. It's just absolutely.
I mean, I'm pretty sure we see it right there. It's exactly right there is what we were talking about. That right click power and potential, as well as the extra charge that kind of comes in here, just allows Neon to take so many just things away from University of Michigan and to. Excuse me, just get those picks needed to secure a fight pretty easily.
Yeah, and not to psychoanalyze or anything like that. I actually think it's really interesting the difference between Sojourn's kind of like 2 minor perks, where it's the difference between ammo or a stronger ultimate, you could say. And I think what is it like the ammo increase? I think is more of like your what like most people would take when it's like okay, it's simple, it's basic. You know, I'm always going to get value out of it. You know, it also does kind of still improve the ultimate. But I think like the ultimate one is like I'm going to like make a play with this ult. Like my ult, like I don't want my ults just to like get one kill and then wander on out. I'm going to like get value. I want it to be like a team winning ult,
Hmm.
like a shatter or something like that. And we see Neon there taking that ultimate the minor ultimate perk, you know, and I mean granted, yeah, he did get a ton of value with his ult, kind of shutting down the D.Va entirely, forcing their only ultimate out, the D.Va bomb, and then just wiping the rest of the point. That was a I was a little shaky at the start of the map, but I think that was an excellent kind of recovery by Thomas and making the University of Michigan kind of have to answer their comp instead of having to do swaps to answer theirs.
Exactly. I think it was a smart idea swapping there. As we saw,
Mm-hmm.
they did pretty uh much. We just see University of Michigan, they did adapt to that Farah, and they were starting to put that pressure onto it, but Thomas was able to pretty easily make the swaps and adjust, which arguably did provide that value. I mean, as you were saying, like the perk system as well can make Sojourn just that much better in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's able to provide that value in those picks. And then obviously just the follow up ultimates that Thomas committed because they knew they could, you
Yeah,
know, just
yeah, and
secure the
also
map.
and something that also I don't think should be understated is Aquilian and Killer kind of teaming up to go after that backline, kind of forcing the supports to play split, but they don't want to play split. They want to play together.
Exactly.
You could see it even there on like that second map with like the Zen just like it's like his like kind of LOS was cut off by the Sojourn Orb, and then the Ana was kind of left to fend for herself, and it kind of just led to the entire team falling apart. And also, I wish we had like one of those like big like Overwatch League like stat trackers or whatever, because I would have loved to have seen a doppelganger's uh like Discord uptime, because honestly I didn't see the Discord getting that much value at least. I don't know about you, but I didn't like
Um,
see that many
it
like
was
Zen
definitely
assists in the
it's
trophy.
definitely just hard to see in general, especially from a
Yeah.
spectator's point of view. Um, I think maybe on like the health bars and stuff we see at the top of the screen, you might be able to see the Discord being applied, but this
Yeah.
game it can be kind of hard to keep track of sometimes. But I imagine it was getting a decent amount of value, regardless. I feel like at this level, it's kind of just
Oh yeah, yeah.
like gonna happen. And as we're waiting for the next game, we actually do see that Thomas College has the ban for the map, but University of Michigan had the choice between Escort and Hybrid, and they've chosen Escort. And Thomas's ban was Circuit Royale, probably not a map they've practiced a lot, but also could be just something
Hmm.
that University of Michigan is maybe really strong at that they don't want to take them to.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it is a question of what their tanks are kind of more comfortable in. I think Thomas would rather play something like a watch point where you're able to get that kind of more reliable dive comp versus something like a circuit where it's like a lot more reliant on like a poke, because
mhm.
I think it's Neon who can play the Widowmaker pretty strong, right?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
Neon who can play like the Ash, the Widow.
Hmm.
Killer's kind of really only strong on the Symmetra and the Venture from what I've seen.
Hmm. Or at
He's
least that's what we've seen out of
Yeah,
him
that's what
so
we've
far.
seen. Yes, I do believe he still does provide value on other picks, but
Yeah.
Venture and Symmetra are kind of like his bread and butter, if you would say.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's usually
And
Neon who
Circuit is
defaults to those
definitely
roles.
not really. Oh, sorry to
No,
talk
you're
over you.
good.
And like Circuit's definitely not a venture map.
Exactly. It's kind of hard to get value with the Venture. Symmetra can get some value, but
Hmm.
not all. It's usually just not the map for a
Yeah.
Symmetra. But
Yeah.
we're not going
And
to have to worry about that at all, as we are going to Watch Point Gibraltar. That is going
mhm.
to be the map choice from University of Michigan. And so we can still see the Venture, we can see the Symmetra, we've seen it before, or we could see something completely different.
Yeah. I imagine when it comes to the tank matchup, I imagine Aquilian will probably stick on the Diva. Now it's a question of if we'll see the Winston on the side of University of Michigan, or if they're going to want to keep this uh, Diva kind of matchup, because like Winston and Diva have like an odd relationship where they both kind of have tools to counter the other, which is I think really cool because like Winston doesn't care about the defense matrix. He can bubble and block off all of Diva's heals, but also Diva puts out so much DPS when she's just in Winston's face that you like Winston kind of needs a constant heal source when he goes in for that dive.
Hmm.
So I think that matchup is like very very interesting, and I think teams have kind of been leaning a bit more towards the Diva, which is understandable because defense matrix is just so powerful, but
It is very
we'll have to
powerful.
see.
We will have to see. It looks like they're just going to restart, get some skins, even though it's a rule usually not to. I guess if both teams agree, then there's nothing wrong with it.
That might just be memeing, but
yeah, could just be memeing too. But
I...
nope, we're not memeing.
Nope.
We're getting skins. Both teams have agreed to skins, and we are gonna get skins.
Listen, when you gotta pay like $50 for some of these things, you gotta you gotta justify these purchases.
You gotta justify it somehow. Especially if like the only reason you play is for like a competitive team, you know. Yeah. It looks like instead of the morning, we're gonna be getting afternoon Gibraltar. So.
Well, this will just change our strategy entirely.
Exactly, it changes literally everything.
Well, the sun's not in their eyes anymore, I think.
I don't think it'd be as bad, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Because the sun's, you know,
the map is designed around the sun being in their eyes. Oh no, it's definitely still in their eyes.
Definitely. It's definitely still there. It's right there. But yeah, I do believe we'll most likely see a D.Va from at least Thomas College, as you had said, and I think a D.Va would be a better pick for the side of University of Michigan, but it looks like they also had a swap that I completely missed. Toby1 coming in for who was the previous one? I can't remember. That's why there's a show lobby. That would be Claymore. Yes, Claymore was originally the tank, but Toby1 is instead getting subbed in, and we will see the Winston. Maybe that's why they subbed him in. Maybe.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. Claymore actually started on the Winston last map and then swapped over to the D.Va and the ball. And like, I mean, we only saw the ball for a little bit, but we imagine if you have the confidence to pick ball in a competitive lobby, that you're not just gonna be like, let's give this a shot, you know?
Exactly.
So now we'll get to see a bit of this kind of D.Va Winston matchup.
Immediately, as they see the Symmetra TP to try to get some support set up, we see Toby1 trying to counter dive over there. The Venture going in, trying to get a little bit of a distraction, but able to get out before too much. We do see, instead of like a Zen Ana, we do see a Brig Ana, per usual, on a dive. It's a nice support, kind of anti-dive thing. Thomas here kind of coming in with the dive. Kind of just forcing them out on the rotate here. Nothing really happening. Sleep getting 8 by the defense matrix, but as the rest of Thomas is here getting this dive set up, not only is Toby1 coming in on the backside now, as well as Grass Toucher, Thomas kind of getting a little bit sandwiched in between the two. A Dynamite coming out as well, providing a lot of damage. Almost demeching. Does find Rice Juice, though. The Dynamite damage just doing so much. But Neon here on the Tracer, as we see, kind of just pushing this cart.
Yeah, maybe they don't notice, but I think they do.
They definitely do notice.
Killer's Venture is actually making, I'd say it's making it a bit hard for University of Michigan to play in that tiny room, but the Brig's actually kind of mitigating those losses, and a good dive by Toby1 behind Thomas's lines to kind of split them, getting the pick, the first pick onto Rice Juice. But now we see...
Doppelganger almost falling there. Killer almost finding the combo there. Trying to find it again. Aquilian finding Dino, though, is going to put a lot of pressure onto University of Michigan. Killer will fall eventually, and the rush does come out from Thomas as well on Bookshelf. Aquilian up here just kind of fighting, trying to find this break. Maybe the Ana, the Nano coming out onto Toby1 here, onto the cart. Will find Rice Juice yet again, as Rice Juice can't really get anywhere and escape this Winston. Bookshelf doing what it can, but he is going to fall 1 HP. Grass Toucher finding 2 picks there. Aquilian getting demech. The bomb coming out as well, so that way they don't find the stagger or anything. Trying to find the kill, maybe? Doesn't find it. Gets in before he falls. Neon did fall before all of that as well. And Thomas getting stopped right before the checkpoint. Will have to regroup and retry.
Thomas, I imagine, will probably be kind of forced to take a dry fight here, as the Bob is going to be able to get so much contest power. And the Brigida ultimate is going to be able to just probably deny this dive right here.
Exactly, we do see the Bob coming out here from Dynamo. The satellite Vector does come out there, maybe a little too soon, but Rice Juice kind of in a bad position, is going to get picked off. Just in general, being shot by Bob and everyone else. Bookshelf is going to fall to the Primal that Toby1 has used. We do see the rally coming out now, just a little bit later. It is a lot of ults for the side of University of Michigan, but it was also a decent amount committed from Thomas as well, so they kind of go even without any really progress from Thomas's side.
We actually see, like, it's almost even now in terms of ultimate charge. Like, in fact, I'd even say Thomas has a little bit of a lead, and Michigan started that fight with 4 ults in their bank. Thomas really only committed their excavation and their kind of solar satellite vector at the start.
Exactly, and you would say a pulse was also committed, but Neon, especially on the Tracer, can kind of build this pulse bomb really fast. Not only that, but kind of force people to the cart. kind of having to 1v1 the Tracer a little bit, is going to be in a rough position as we see Toby1 contesting this high ground here. Aquilian kind of going in by himself on the backline there, trying to do something, trying to make anything happen. Will get a nice bell timing there to prevent the fall, but unfortunately because of that, the nade is going to come out and find Aquilian and get the DMAC. Without that remake, it's just going to be a little bit rough. Has to play safe, has to try to get this remake. Bookshelf is just getting pocketed here. Killer does find Grass Toucher. Aquilian will not get the remake in time. There is only 30 seconds remaining. We do see the rush coming out. Dino does find Neon, and now it's a 3v4. Dino 1 HP on the top. Will fall eventually. Killer as well getting pocketed here. Will find a little bit of space here. The nano coming out of Toby1 though should secure this fight here as the anti as well going on to Bookshelf. Rally being committed. I mean, there is only 10 seconds left, so it makes it a little harder, but Thomas is going to have to touch it. They're going to have to look for something. Excavation coming out, trying to stay alive. No supports. Isn't going to really find anyone as Killer is going to fall, and with 1 second left, Neon's going to get on the objective. Has his pulse in 3%, is trying to look for it. Has to get recalled. Is going to go out. Aquilian eats the Grass Toucher's pulse bomb, and the pulse bomb finds Yamitra. They're going to see 9, though. Caleb Aquilian is going to do the DMAC here onto the car with the Diva Bomb is going to get on here, is going to get the remake back in. The sleep coming out isn't going to find anyone. Spinnery coming out. Both Rice Juice in here, going to get in here. Neon on the top line, going to find Doppelganger. Going to just try to make something happen. It's really winnable here. Toby1 going to have to force the Primal out. The bomb coming out onto point. It's going to be really huge. Rice Juice needs the Satellite Vector. 1% needs to use it right now. They see 9 on the cart though, and that is going to be the first round as Thomas unfortunately will step off of the objective and give it away to University of Michigan.
University of Michigan, like, the two ults you want there are Bob and Winston ult just to deny so much, like literally just took Thomas off the cart because they could not reach it in time without killing themselves. On Bob are being knocked off by Toby1's Winston. An almost excellent clutch there by Thomas. You see them actually get the supports down low. If it wasn't for those, like, kind of clutch ults on the side of University of Michigan, then it would have been, we would have been watching Thomas's offensive still, but Thomas is going to have to put up a serious hold here now.
They will have to.
You were kind of hoping probably to break that kind of first, like, kind of bridge hold a little bit sooner.
Especially with how close it was looking. I mean, a C9 like that can be devastating on the mental for the team. And even though we're still pretty early into this series, stuff like that can really just make it that much harder to play the game just overall.
I think it's a little bit easier to cope when you know that they had to spend 2 ultimates on it and you were, like, you know, a fraction of percentage of away. You know, it's fine.
Yeah, it's most likely fine. Yes.
I'd give the Thomas mental team some more credit, or the mental game more credit.
I'll definitely give it more credit, as it could have just been a lack of communication. It could have been any number of factors.
I don't think it was a lack of communication. I think they got literally denied off the cart. You know.
It's hard to tell. There was a lot of stuff going on, but regardless, as they kind of see the same strat coming out, Killer going to be the one to dive after the backline here as they do the TP strat as well to get their support set up. But it almost falls, which would not have been good. Toby1 here.
See the difference there between how both the teams execute it, with Doppelganger was actually able to throw a nade on Thomas's Sim TP, luckily blocked by either Bookshelf or Aquilian.
And Aquilian does find a nice booster kill onto Yamitra here. It's just the Brig, so they still have that kind of support backline, but they are still going to wait here, trying to get that cart progress where they can. Doppelganger finding Killer there in the back line. The dive not being as successful, and also just kind of going by yourself is really rough, especially into this Ana, Brig, and Ashe.
We need to see Aquilian and Killer synchronize these dives, or we're just going to keep seeing the repeat of just that, essentially.
Exactly, and Dino finding Bookshelf here is not going to be good for Thomas, as now Neon and Aquilian are just stuck here with Rice Juice on this Juno. Can only do so much, and they already have to give it so much space. Neon as well getting picked off on the side, not able to really go anywhere, getting pressured by everyone. Thomas has no control of this high ground, no control over really anything right now.
I mean, with Killer probably about to fall, maybe they'll get out, but it's alarm bells for Thomas right now. You're going to need to put some pressure on this cart, and also the only ultimate you have now is your tank ultimate, which isn't going to be that effective, and you just lost your support.
Who was the other closest one to building this ultimate? Toby1 as well finding Bookshelf, another kill, and even though they're not really pushing this cart, they can do whatever they want, as now it's just a shooting gallery for Dino, especially here on the Ashe. I mean, Killer going in, trying to do what he can, is going to fall, and now they have the Bob to go in and do whatever they want. It's essentially a 6v5, 6v4 even. Silent Vector will come out. Aquilian is able to stay on this cart. Bookshelf falls yet again. Rice Shoes is going to fall, and now it's just Aquilian. But Aquilian's going to get demeched without the bomb to really follow up. It's just going to be a nice clean sweep for University of Michigan as they take a Gibraltar away from Thomas.
Yeah. What I really want to see there is you could even kind of see like Thomas's first offensive is Aquilian and Killer are just not synced with these dives at all. And you need to be synced so that the Diva can take the pressure off of the Venture, especially because like if Venture gets hit by that like anti-nade or by a sleep dart, it just lights out. But you see, just Dino's just able to pre-fire because it's just so hard for any sort of pressure to be put onto them. Of course, you know, they're stacking ults, Thomas is staggering in. It's just it was just an excellent kind of push by the side of University of Michigan.
Exactly, and I feel like that's a good part about especially on defense. Thomas had the setup for an excellent kind of dive there with a Venture, a Diva to back up the Venture. They have the Kiriko, they have the Juno, they have a lot of tools to be able to play a dive composition, albeit a little bit differently from University of Michigan's dive. But especially with that Ash Dynamite, as we saw, Dino was getting so much value with that Dynamite for the dives. And I would have liked to have seen that a little bit from Thomas College there, as they kind of have the same, they could just kind of do the same dive there. But instead, just things kind of went wrong one after another, and University of Michigan just kind of, outperformed
they were
a little bit.
They were in a much better position, I think, for the dives that Thomas was trying to do, especially like on their defense. Just the amount of kind of long range healing that I kind of mentioned before, the amount of long range healing that Ana can put out, especially when she has like a break to kind of bodyguard her, is just gonna be so kind of hard for Thomas to kind of keep up with. We kind of talked about like in the Winston Diva dynamic, how Winston kind of constantly relies on kind of just pressure, or not pressure, but like healing from the Ana to kind of stay in these close range engagements with the Diva. And I think what is it, Doppelganger and Yamitra were providing more than enough for Toby1 to stay in these fights. We see another switch with Dino getting taken out for Nervy Titan 40. Actually, Dino is staying in. It's Grass Toucher that's being taken out on the side of the University of Michigan.
So it looks like as well, because we have things have been kind of going a little bit quick. It looks like Saravasa is going to be our next map, and that could be why they make the swaps. Is because maybe they have a lot of stuff that they've been practicing. Like they keep they keep Claymore in the beginning in the first map just due to the nature of Ilios and how things can just be played differently. They bring Toby1 in for Gibraltar for the Winston dive. Maybe, like I said, the Winston's just a lot better in his hands. And then they swap out Nervy Titan for Grass Toucher. They actually
Nervy
will
Titan, if their
do
setup is
little bit of a
consistent, then Nervy
swap.
Titan's actually going over to DPS or tank.
Based on their lineup before, it looks like that is going to be the case, as Nervy Titan just got swapped around for Toby1, and it looks like we'll see Toby1 DPS and Titan tank, which is interesting. But it looks like there's a lot of versatility in this team. Even if it's in the same kind of comp, they have a lot of versatility and are using it to their full advantage.
If you're paying attention at home, you know that Grass Toucher is kind of their like University of Michigan's kind of so far like they're kind of dedicated like Tracer players. So that at least tells Thomas that they have no intention of playing Tracer on this map. I imagine, because if you did, you would keep them in.
You would keep Grass Toucher in, because I believe that's kind of just what we've seen Grass Toucher on like the whole time so far, is that Tracer, and it's been Dinah who's been swapping around to other DPS if needed.
Yeah, and now it's kind of the question of if Thomas will be playing a more kind of dive-focused composition, or like they're going to kind of make that pivot over to the Ramatra or the Magua and kind of like play these more like tighter kind of fights. And it looks like that will be a yes, as they will be switching over to the Ramatra, and that's actually all they're going to change and try and like modify this comp. Because I imagine Neon's probably either going to stick on the Symmetra, or I imagine they're probably going to change over to like like a Sojourn or something like that to put pressure on probably what I imagine is going to be Nervy Titan 40's Farah.
But then it could be, but we're seeing quite a bit of a
Lucio
difference.
Kiriko?
With Toby1 still on the tank, it looks like they just swapped the order to match Thomas's, with the tank in the middle of the lobby, which makes sense. Nervy Titan is going onto this Farah. We'll see a Farah mirror, but that's kind of the only thing outside the Kiriko as well, as they're still running this dive. I mean, University of Michigan loves their dive.
Killer is going to have a hard time ahead of him, just trying to keep up with, trying to like put pressure on this Pharah. But hey,
Neon
never mind, I say
finding
that,
a
but
nice
maybe
direct
Neon will just do
rocket.
it for him. And now it's kind
Exactly.
of Killer's job just to get onto this backline and just put so much pressure like on the Lucio. You can see them doing it already, and then just get out.
Exactly, you can see him going in and finding this pressure, especially with the Pharah gone. It just kind of makes his job a lot easier. Will fall. There is a lot of burst damage coming in from University of Michigan with this Sojourn and with this Winston lead. But Thomas does have this point. They are starting to get the tick up, but with this high ground control they have, it just makes it really tough for Thomas to kind of play anywhere, as now they're going to just be forced to back out. And Aquilian especially having a rough time.
I mean, yeah, if there's one advantage that you can kind of take over the Ramatra as well as Nemesis form is strong, he cannot contest you on high ground at all, unlike the Winston. So you see them just get that much pressure just up and down on Thomas. And that's going to be a hard start with Neon going down inside of Tobywan.
Exactly, Tobywan finding a nice right click, I imagine, and Nervy Titan as well finding Bookshelf. Thomas just going to be forced to back out again. They did manage to get that 33% beforehand, but now it's just going downhill as they're finding the picks necessarily. Reshiu's going to fall here, unable to really go out anywhere, as well as Aquilian. And now they have so much space to do whatever they want.
Killer tried to go for the Urko there, they're just going to teleport out. Honestly, now Thomas is going to have I actually like the switch over off of the Ramatra a lot more by Aquilian, because now we can actually play the game with the Winston, kind of do this dance.
Exactly.
Taking the high ground and things like that. But double support out on the side of University of Michigan with all their other ults not that far away. You're going to need to make something happen soon if you're Thomas and get these support ults out.
Exactly, they could go for a contest here, and it looks like that's what's going to happen. Neon as well, finding a nice pick on a Doppelganger, takes out one support. Killer is going to be the one, as well as Aquilian going onto the objective, finding Diamond. The Kitsune coming out as well. Neon finding 3. Bookshelf finding a nice pick onto Tobywan. Will make a very nice fight for Thomas there, as they really only commit 2 ultimates.
Ooh, he can't be stopped!
He can't be stopped. Neon is kind of locking in, finding a lot of good picks, but now comes the real test. As if they can keep the hold, especially with 5 ultimates for the side of University of Michigan about to show up.
Yeah. If Neon can keep, I think you're really reliant on Neon putting out so much pressure at the start of these fights. I mean, that's what you're kind of hoping to see so far. Good kind of actually like dive denial there on the Winston.
Oh, a nice, excellent
shutdown.
shutdown. As you heard the voice line coming out, we do see the Kitsune Rush and the Beat coming out from the side of University of Michigan, but the Satellite Vector coming out from the side of Thomas here onto this objective. We do see Tobywan get on point to Tuz, but he is going to have to be forced to prop to Primal. We do see the excavation coming out for Killer, finding Dino, who was in that ult, but wasn't able to really find anyone, so it's a 1-for-1 trade. It's a little fine. Neon almost having this ultimate as well, trying to go in, trying to find a round, finds one pick. It's really nice. We do see Nervy Titan swap over to the Genji for some reason in the middle of this, maybe just to get back point, but Neon absolutely going crazy, trying to flick there. A little bit of a mind game there, trying to find the deflect kill, but isn't going to find it. As 99 to 99%, Thomas is going to take this first objective in a pretty intense fight. As you see, they threw every ultimate at Thomas, and Thomas held.
Responds with what? 3 of their own Satellite Vector?
3 of their own.
Satellite Vector and both DBS ults. I mean,
yes.
You're going to have a rush now if you're Thomas. You're going to have the Diva Bomb to allow your Diva to go for much more aggressive plays. Neon has been putting in absolute work, and I don't think the Genji's going to shut him down. I think this Lucio is going to be... Oh, and the Kiriko are just having such a rough time.
Exactly. You can see Neon kind of doing to Doppelganger what they were kind of doing to Rice in the previous map, just getting picked off beforehand, just like not really able to do much, and now we see the Flashpoint kind of unlocks here on this well. Another perk for Neon there.
Neon already has a second perk.
Exactly. And now we see Tobywan make a swap to Zarya.
That is interesting, because that is saying that he is trusting that the Sojourn and Genji can really take care of this Pharah, and you're also relying a lot on potentially maybe the Pharah spam to build up Zarya's charge, but and also just shut down Aquilian's Diva. It's very much a devious counter swap.
It is a very devious counter swap for Aquilian here, but as long as you don't get the Zarya charge, I feel like it doesn't get nearly as much value. But Tobywan here is going to walk onto this objective here to try to make something happen. Thomas just kind of playing Ring Around the Rosie.
And Neon also hitting some excellent, like, direct hits that are really putting in a ton of work.
Yamitra
tries to save Yamitra there, but just doesn't work.
But then Doppelganger and Nervy Titan finding a nice double kill on the DPS. They do find a couple of picks. The DMAC comes out on Aquilian, but Aquilian able to get the remake for the ultimate, and they still have control of this objective here. They're going to be forced to slide out. And even though they got some good picks there, they essentially got no progress with it, as we're coming up to 90%. Thomas is looking in a good position. The early rush coming out, looking to take some aggression here. They are going to rush onto the back line. The Bell coming out, the beat coming out. Beat as well from Nervy Titan, but Nervy Titan getting shut down. And now, if you're Thomas, you're confident. Getting the perk, apparently, that looks like it just kind of acts more like a little mini grab on the concussion blast instead of a knockback, which I think is kind of a cool perk, if you ask me.
Yeah, and also it's going to make the lives of pretty much everyone on the side of University of Michigan hell, because now the Lucio is going to basically, his wall ride's going to be shut down. Kiriko is going to be just Kiriko and Sojourn is going to be pelted by these direct hits. If anything, like the Genji just got shut down with the blade. It's going to be. I'm not really understanding the Genji pick. It's so hard to get value.
Yeah, it is. I feel like Genji, there was an idea behind it, but I don't really see it. Dino does have this ultimate as well as they go with the rush, finding a couple of picks onto the DPS, maybe just kind of waiting for them. But Thomas is fine with this, as they committed 2 ults just to capture the point. I mean, it's not the worst situation. Yes, the point does kind of tick up pretty fast, but 2 ults for nothing? I think you're fine with that.
Even good play by University of Michigan to kind of bait in Thomas into a pretty bad engagement for them there. But I mean, Neon and Killer getting really low on the side of Zarya. You're gonna want to shut it down as soon as possible.
Exactly, and they do have
Neon
this grab coming up.
Yeah, now you have to kind of see if Neon can kind of open the door, because most of the times before he's already kind of had the presence that he needs. I mean, to actually obtain it. Let's see if he can do so.
Exactly, and now you see they're kind of just letting some stuff just walk. Killer finding Dino, Killer on a nice flank. Solo grab onto Killer, but Aquilian does kind of walk into it, trying to do a defense matrix onto him, but it's not enough, as Yumitra will get a boop onto that. They do have the beat coming out from Yumitra there to try to sustain just a little bit. They don't have any other ults to work with. Meanwhile, Raichu's here coming out with the satellite vector is going to put a little bit more pressure onto them, getting sucked back in by the concussion blast there with the perk. But Thomas does flip the point, as you just said, 79% for the side of U Michigan.
Beat committed by the side of U Michigan. It's gonna be kind of painful, because now here's the barrage probably to shut down just the Zarya.
Neon blows himself up though.
Probably too close to the wall.
Probably. And now Thomas is immediately in not a good position. Killer as well going to fall there. Dino does fall, but it's not going to be enough, as they still have a 1 member up on you. Doppelganger 1 HP is going to be forced to Bell there, but Thomas doesn't really have the kill pressure to find any more picks, as they're going to be forced to back out. 90% to 39. Thomas might just opt to give this one.
You have to at this point.
They actually make the call for Aquilian to go in and find the contest. As they look at the over-aggression there from University of Michigan, they will find Neon. They almost get the flip. Bookshelf TP's in, finds Yumitra, and uses this rush here. They do see the rush come out from Doppelganger. The grab, as well as the blade coming out from University of Michigan. The baby Diva coming out, does get the Diva bomb out. They do get the flip somehow. 42%. Aquilian is going to try to get out, just try to stall as much as he can. Killer as well coming in. It looks like this is U Michigan's fight to win, but Thomas are going to make them work for it. And now they've forced out 3 ultimates.
Pretty impactful ultimates. Granted, Thomas not so innocent in the ultimate game either. They commit a ton to get that, to try and kind of stick onto that fight. Aquilian committing the bomb, which is potentially questionable, but a good kind of rush engage with Bookshelf there to kind of make something happen, but unfortunately just the backline was still so exposed. Now, if you're Thomas, you're kind of back to, not square one, of course. You've got another satellite vector coming up, but this kind of what is it? You have to kind of respect, I think, Dino's ultimate overclock here, and I mean, they're gonna get point first just from timing, but also you probably need to just respect it and just give it to him. And Killer needs to not just be caught up in these flames, but maybe
the Lucio there maybe looking for a little bit of a pick, but it looks like they are opting to just kind of give it up. Thomas here, Doppelganger finding a nice pick onto Bookshelf is going to make it really hard for Thomas to play the game, and Raichu's about to fall as well, able to get up and sustain, but with no other support, it's going to be a little rough. They are trying to find Nervy Titan. They do find Nervy Titan, but with just the 1 support, Thomas is going to have to be a little careful here. Aquilian did swap over to the Ramatra, and we do see a solid Vector coming out, which is a pretty solid play. They just need to try to sustain, stay with it. University of Michigan get the point. They do see the Neon coming out with the barrage, but Toby just bubbles and looks at him, and Neon just falls over. Killer finding Dino in the back line, about to find Yamitra, does find Yamitra, and now what was looking like a pretty even fight is actually going to go in Thomas's favor as they do get the point swap. Toby 1 finds Killer, though. As I say that, they do find Doppelganger, and now there's no supports alive for the side of University of Michigan, but it's only Aquilian and Righteous here. They do get the point swap, and it looks like Michigan is just going to try to stay here. Nervy Titan and Toby 1 trying to do what they can. Yamitra is back. Do get in. The grab coming in finds Neon, finds Rice Juice, and with that, even though they got the flip, it's immediately going to go back to Michigan. With a nice grab there by Toby 1.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I don't mind the Ramacho swap by Aquilian to kind of get off of the Diva and just stop being like pressured for free, and now neither team is really playing for that high ground. But the grab is going to be such a pain for Thomas to deal with, not really having any kind of good response for it. Like, the most you kind of have is like a bookshelf hitting a nice bell that like, and hopefully hits like the majority of like Dino's burst damage. But the blade here is probably hoping now to probably make something happy if you're Nervy Titan a bit quiet this match. But
and they do have this rush as well. The rush coming out there from Doppelganger, the excavation coming out from Killer here in the backline does get looked at, is about to fall, but is able to dig and get out. Doesn't really find any picks with it. We do see in the backline, we do see Nervy Titan trying to go for some picks. Bookshelf does fall just a little bit too low. Looking for Rice Juice now on the flank, trying to do something. Is too low without any support. Toby 1 finding a nice double kill there. Aquilian with the Ramacha ult, though, is going to force them off this objective and kind of force them into a stalemate here. It is 99%, so Thomas cannot afford to give this up, otherwise it comes to match point here. And this match point could bring them to match point. And that's not something that Thomas wants here, as they are kind of just looking for something. Neon here in the backline will fall the Dino. The rush coming out from Bookshelf here. Aquilian does fall a little bit low, but they're able to keep him up here. Is having Nervy Titans with the D-Flight coming out. We do see Toby 1 on the side here. Thomas is getting this percentage ticked up here. As long as they can get it to 99%, they can kind of commit whatever they want, as they know that they have a good chance of winning. But with Killer falling, it's going to be a little bit more questionable. They do opt to commit the side of that Vector Hitter, trying to make something happen. The beat coming out from Yamitra as well. Dino does have this overclock. They're probably going to commit here. Here it comes out right now. Neon does have this barrage. Let's spectate him as he's going in for a flank. He's going to look for it. It does get looking really good, but it's not going to be enough, as Dino was there with the overclock, and with that, it's going to be University of Michigan that is going to take this objective away from them and force them into a match point situation, 2-2, and this could be the game changer, as Killer's going on trying to make something happen. Dino with a slide almost falls off there, but it's going to be Killer who falls. And now, as we go to this last objective, you gotta wonder what's gonna happen.
Not to slander his name, but like Killer, I think is getting a little too predictable with these kind of like venture plays. Like, you see the entirety of University of Michigan was kind of like on that last fight. Like, they saw him kind of running behind. They all just ran behind him and like, oh wait, you can't. You won before us, so, and then they win the fight. Exactly. I mean, a good pick there.
Killer did find Mitra, who got maybe a little too aggressive on his end that time, but now with the Kitsune rush and the grab coming out, even though they got that early pick, it looks like it might be a little still questionable for Thomas there, as they're going to be forced to back up now after losing everyone except Aquilian and Rice Juice, as Nervy Titan and Dino are just going to go in and melt Aquilian. Rice Juice looks like we'll be able to get out with their life and reset.
This graph is just an absolute fight winner for the side of University of Michigan. I've got to say, the Zarya has been an excellent swap. You see Neon actually getting off the Pharah now, looking to match Dino's Sojourn, which I think is actually a pretty decent idea, like something to like kind of burst down the Zarya when her bubbles are down, because the Pharah, I think, was just feeding a little bit too much charge. But Aquilian, they can make something happen now with this
taking
kind of
a lot of space here.
Play.
Does have the Ramatra Annihilation pretty soon. We do see Nervy Titan going with the blade, the bubble as well coming out. We'll find a nice deflate kill onto Neon. Rice Shoes falling as well. Bookshelf trying to do what he can. Finds a nice headshot, but Nervy Titan's going to find 3. Dino is going to find a 4th. Yamitra will fall still, but it doesn't matter, as Thomas will come out on top, and they're deciding to poor Aquilian stagger him just for a couple of extra seconds, but it might be all they need, as we're coming up on 70%.
Close to match point. You got to remember, these points go a lot faster than something like Control or King of the Hill. And Thomas is going to have almost all of their ults online. They need to not get picked before this fight even starts. And they're going to need to close this distance pretty quickly.
Here we go. We see Killer trying to find a pick. Someone's going to have to touch the objective. This is 94%, 95. Someone's got to go touch the objective. Aquilian's going to be the one. Barely gets on in time. Was so close to a C9. Not even a C9, but just not even touching there. Killer finds a couple of picks. Dino does find Righteous with the overclock, but Killer's going to find enough picks in order to secure this point, and just... give
A
them another
late
fighting
swap
chance.
to the Ramatra by the side of Toby one. I think that actually might be a crippling mistake because you're behind in the perk economy. Now you're also behind the ult economy.
And I think the
I
Zarya
think
was
Thomas
just
actually,
giving so much value as
yeah,
well.
Thomas was kind of Zarya was actually letting your Genji go for those like more aggressive plays. Now the Genji's gonna have a lot more trouble kind of staying up. Thomas now also has 4 ults. As long as they don't burn him too quickly, they should be in a really good position.
Here comes Neon. Here we do see the Silent Verta coming out, but Neon had the overclock, does find Yamitra. Dino falls as well. Thomas needs to not commit anymore. They do find Toby-Wan. That's a perfect trade, I think. 2 is fine. Killer does fall. Not the greatest there, but it's alright as you still have this control. Doppelganger
Thomas
does
wants
fall. They're
those
looking for
aggressive plays.
picks, but they need to not get picked themselves. And it looks like they're going to make the choice to back up here and wait for Killer to come back.
Yeah, now it's a rush versus rush and Ramatra ult versus kind of beat and maybe a blade, but Nervy Titan's gonna need to make something happen.
That's
That
huge.
is not what you're going to see. That
That
your
is such a
engage tool.
huge pick from Neon there. That is your engage tool. That is something that's going to help you so much. And now you don't have a rush to match this. You only have this B. Nervy Titan needs to build up this blade as fast as possible. Queen going in with the rush, just beating Toby-Wan down. Dino falls. It's 3-1 on the objective right now. It's going to be Nervy and Dino who falls. Yamitra can't even get out. The TP from Doppelganger does come out with the bell, with the rush, but it's too late. Neon with an absolute clutch of a right click there onto Doppelganger is going to secure Thomas's victory here on Saravasa, bringing them to match point against University of Michigan 2-1.
I'm not even playing and I'm sweating. That was right down to the wire, Thomas.
They had it so early.
Dino getting this value onto bookshelf there, getting a little bit caught out.
I mean, Dino's just been putting in so much value here on this Soldier.
I think actually a lot kind of changes there if Neon doesn't kind of respect Dino and like respect the amount of pressure they've been able to put on to the Pharah and kind of just swap to do the Sojourn Mirror, because like the Pharah, don't get me wrong, was working, but when they were playing so kind of like with like the heals kind of so compact on the side of like University of Michigan with the Zarya, I think that we were seeing the Pharah was finding it much harder to kind of get value. And even, I mean, I gotta say, somehow the Genji was pretty good at setting on the Pharah. I think it was actually because the Genji can contest in the sky, where Pharah usually thinks she's safe, with Pharah kind of being a little bit more grounded than we're probably used to. But, I mean, excellent show, I think, by both teams there. You were kind of like worried with the Grav and the Blade just kind of being so dominant fight winners for the side of University of Michigan that Thomas was still able to kind of pull it out in the end with some, like, excellent picks and a great stagger there. I mean, you lose Killer there, but I think it was definitely worth it to kit the enemy Kiriko and just kind of make it all right, we're just one fight. One fight's going to determine the map, and then also we're going to pick your Kiriko again before the map starts, so we have our rush and you do not. Good luck.
Exactly. I mean, as we were saying, like that Kiriko rush from Doppelganger was like practically necessary for them to have even more of a fighting chance to kind of take control back from Thomas to win Saravasa. But Neon just found an amazing right click. I don't even know how because we weren't spectating him, unfortunately. But regardless, finds that necessary pick in order to let Thomas kind of take the lead here and kind of force them into a 5v4 for the win of the map.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely would have rather engaged with the Kiriko rush rather than the beat, saved the beat to shut down Aquilian's tank ult, or let your Genji blade, which he hopefully builds, kind of just really get all the power it can do. And also, that's another thing, the swap over to the Ramatra, I think University of Michigan, I think Toby might be hitting himself for that, because I think the Zarya was probably a much stronger force there that you probably would have stayed on, because of just how much value it gave to both your DPS and to yourself, and in like kind of a way of like kind of shutting down those more aggressive Ramatra plays.
Exactly. I do think it could have been a better swap earlier on, but I think right there, last minute, it was not the choice. I think the Zarya just gets a lot better value, just overall,
Yeah.
as you were saying.
Yeah, and granted, you do get your perks pretty quick near the end of the map, but like you still have to kind of go into a fight without a perk. And with Ramatra, like especially his minor perks, just increasing his DPS so much, improving his primary fire to like do up those little like shotgun bursts. I think you're kind of like already kind of playing at like such a disadvantage, and you know, Toby-Wan never got to build another tank hold after that, which really sucked.
Exactly, and that's you kind of need all that you can get, especially in a match point situation like that. to bring you to match point. Because remember, it's best of 5, so first to 3 wins, and University of Michigan was very close to bringing Thomas to that match point, but instead Thomas were able to make the comeback there, and kind of take it away from them. And now, as we wait, we do see a push.
We see Grass Toucher being put back in, so I imagine that means that they're going to be
Tracer. Exactly, comes back. And the next map is going to be push, per usual, kind of just like the standard 4th map, I believe. I don't believe there's a choice on this one. And then it looks like we are going to see Thomas College bans the Esperanza. And it's going to be a Coliseo pick from the side of University of Michigan.
I imagine we'll probably see a swap back over to those more divey comps, like your D.Va and your Winston, on the side of both teams. Probably if we don't see that like kind of Ramatra comp on the side of Thomas, it's definitely going to be the D.Va. I imagine with Toby1 staying in, we're going to see that Winston, I imagine.
Exactly. I think we're probably going to see the Winston, or even maybe the Zarya again. I feel like with push, a Zarya still can be pretty solid all around. But a Winston also is possible. We have seen it before on Coliseo. And I feel like Thomas is probably going to stick to this Ramatra D.Va. I feel like they're not really going to swap off of that, and I think they'll just play based on what they see.
I mean, if we see Aquilian come out of here in like the Reinhardt, I'm going to like do a backflip, which I've never done before in my life, but I'll try. You'll just hear a thud and then nothing, but, you know, I'll try.
Hey, the attempt would be there, and you know what? That's all we can ask for, because that would be quite an upset there. It'd be quite a difference in playstyle. I doubt we will see it, but it'd be crazy if we did.
Let's see.
We'll see what's it going to come out on, and we see the Ramatra and a ball.
Which is interesting, because we saw... What was it? What was their name? Oh my gosh, I can't even remember.
Claymore?
We saw University of Michigan's first tank come out.
Claymore.
As the Winston. Yeah, Claymore.
Who's on Lucio right now, actually.
Claymore. Oh, that's actually an interesting swap. Over to the Lucio. Apparently, the other Lucio wasn't kind of providing value. They want to keep playing the Lucio, but they want to change up who's playing it, which I think is kind of interesting. It
could be kind of the difference maker, honestly.
Oh,
did Killer just...
interesting deck.
That's interesting there.
Did you not see?
Killer is going to see him there. That is a cool tag. I've never seen that before, but it's kind of funny to watch. But it's going to be a little tough. They're looking to play for more of a dive and just ignore Aquilian here. Tracer here, Grass Toucher is going to be absolutely murdering Rice in the backline there. Neon does find Dino, so they do kind of trade, but with only the one support alive, it's going to make their life a little bit rough, especially with this on a Lucio. Killer's going to have to put some pressure onto the backline there. Will find Doppelganger, but now with Bookshelf down, you don't have any supports for your team, and it's going to be Grass Toucher instead who's going to be finding the backline a lot more. Claymore finding a nice boot kill onto Killer there in the backline. Neon swapping over to Sombra.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Sombra is more than justified. You were seeing such an aggressive dive with the Lucio, Tracer, and Ball all kind of diving together, with the Dino to kind of protect the Ana, and also put out a ton of like burst damage. If anything, like, you know, Dino hits a good rocket, and that's kind of like, oh, this person's half, and now an immediate target for the Ball and the Tracer to dive on top of. Now the Sombra's going to throw kind of a wrench into this plan, just being able to hack the Ball and the Pharah just back down onto the ground, hopefully
especially
get some value.
Killer on the Venture here can kind of, as you saw, like right-click the ball away here. And now with the hack as well, they're pretty much just playing Protect the Presidents of Bookshelf and Rice Juice here in the backline. Like, yes, they have to try to get on their backline, but it's either get on University of Michigan's backline or just take care of the ball. And then who's going to be an issue besides the Tracer, really?
Yeah, and the Pharah hitting some good directs.
Exactly, but the Ball is also kind of the character that sets up the Pharah and the Tracer to find those finishing blows most of the time. And just like that, Toby1 just gets hacked out midair, and they all immediately turn and look at him. They aren't able to find the pick, and Neon is a little bit low, but it looks here. You see Aquilian and Raishu kind of just playing on their own here, putting a little bit of space in between the backline. Grass Toucher will find a nice pick onto Bookshelf before, or after, I mean, the rush comes out. Toby1's able to kind of play freely now. The excavation coming out from Killy here on the flank. doesn't look like it's really going to find anyone. Neon is going to fall as well. Killer's going to be over here to try to support Aquilian, but there's no one there to follow up. Tobywan's going to find another pick, and it's going to be a pretty close fight on both sides. Killer is going to find Dino. Going to open things up just a tiny bit as Thomas will get back a little bit sooner. Trying to time the slam there, and it looks like it did happen, but Killer's able to get out. And now Thomas is kind of just in the same position.
But you see, goodbye University of Michigan there, just to kite all of both of Thomas's ults, Killer's Excavation and the Rush. Just like the ball is able to, like, you know, granted, like, yeah, you can all focus the ball, but the ball still has a ton of HP. An excellent opening pick on the Claymore.
They do find Rice Juice in return.
Traded by Rice Juice.
A hat coming out from Neon is going to find Tobywan, which enables the pick there, and Grass Toucher falling as well. A nice double kill with the EMP there. If you want to take notes if you're watching. And then... but Thomas is actually able to finally get the lead here and get the objective pushing, but they will have 4 ultimates against 2 coming up here, so it's going to be a little rough for them.
Venture is able to at least put pressure onto this high ground. Hopefully they don't stick around too long, no overstay their welcome. But yeah, now this minefield actually is going to make, I think, Thomas's push really, really hard.
Dino here coming in with the barrage.
Will find down Aquilian, poor guy.
Bookshelf falling as well. They do find Tobywan, but unless they can find a couple more picks here and there, which Neon did find a couple, he finds 3 actually. Wait a minute, he's finding more and more. They do find Rice Juice, so it's no supports, but Killer able to find Claymore. And
Thomas, that card progress, guys.
Thomas, I don't think they get checkpoint, but they get more progress than they were intending originally. An interesting minefield from Tobywan, but I understand the commitment there of the minefield to prevent anyone who was on card from pushing. But considering it was just Neon, as you saw, it just kind of uses the translocator to get out of harm's way.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks that you don't get the checkpoint there, but getting out the tank hole, I mean, okay, he is switching over to the Ramatra.
That would explain it even more.
If Thomas was paying attention, they'll notice that and just engage right away, knowing they don't have a tank yet. But, now we'll see that the Beat is actually going to probably want to shut down this Excavation, and the Nano target, I imagine, is going to be either the Tracer or the Pharah, just probably going to be able to put out like 200 damage rockets to really shut down Thomas's backline. And that is assuming that Aquilian doesn't get him first.
They do manage to find the Lucio, so there's the Beat actually did get Ajax there if you look at his percentage there, but it's going to be Tobywan with the Nano who kind of finds both supports in the back line as well as just being able to shred the front line as well, just kind of just shredding everyone with that Nano.
I imagine we might see a swap off of as soon as we see the EMP from Neon, probably going to stick onto the Sombra just to build that EMP just because it can't just be a fight-winning ult. But the lack of a Beat here is going to actually be pretty devastating because now Killer's ult is practically free. I mean, as long as he's just getting shut down by the
there goes the
solo EMP onto Tobywan, just
did look for more, but wasn't able to find anyone else except Tobywan. But getting rid of the tank is kind of all you need, as it forces the rest of Michigan to back out.
Yeah, Pulse Bomb missed by Grass Toucher. I mean, it's right one trade and you get their tank. That's going to be, you know, pressure. Now they're going to have to probably commit something to get something to make something happen or get a really good fight.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Thomas
Grass Toucher here, you can see him out just getting caught out. If he's going to escape, it looks like he will.
Just
a sliver
barely.
of HP.
Neon here, kind of looking for him, can see him through the walls with Sombra passive. Thomas here comes the Excavation from behind, trying to find something, find someone. Does manage to get out alive, does find Doppelganger, is looking for Claymore. Claymore does manage to not live at all. I jinxed him just by thinking about it, and he will fall, and now it's just Tobywan and Grass Toucher kind of just stuck on a weird flank angle.
They will respawn quick, so you will have your supports getting back quick. But that's, of course, if they have anyone to support, if you're not caught out on these weird flanks.
But Neon does find Tobywan. But Neon does fall the Grass Toucher, who kind of gets a nice blink in. And now, even though Thomas does find a pick onto Grass Toucher there, Rice Juice is going to fall, and now it's a 2v4, it looks like. And Thomas is just going to have to try to...
If you're Thomas, just die on cart. You know, you got all that progress, you know, for practically free, you know, and now you're close to your Ramatra ult to match theirs. Dino's ultimate can be pretty hard to kind of work through, especially as Neon is so far away from his own after swapping off of the Sombra. Now also missing the perks, of course, but Bookshelf's ult will probably help Aquilian kind of close the distance with his abilities and probably build up his Ram ult, I imagine.
And now we see Dino finds Killer, but Dino will fall after that as the rush from Bookshelf comes out. They're able to find Claymore as well. Neon on this soldier and able to put in a lot of pressure. We do see Tobywan commit the Annihilation there, but the Nano was committed, so it makes sense. The Annihilation kind of ends pretty quickly. No one was in there, and so Thomas doesn't lose a whole lot for it, and instead gain a little bit of an advantage as there was only 2 ults committed. I mean, Pulse Bomb I feel like is more of an ability cooldown that's just really long, but
yeah.
it gets thrown up there and
you're
finds
tracking
nothing.
where their cart is. They, even if they did somehow like immediately win that fight and like wipe it, like they wouldn't have been able to capture the objective at time, or at least not even take over your lead. Quillian's gonna kind of sad that he gets slept there and kind of gets his ult shut down, but Dino needs to make something happen here. Needs to shut down Killer or Neon. He needs to make
he's
something
trying
happen.
to, but with the Ramatra E and kind of just no LOS of his own supports, he's forced to just kind of waste his ultimate.
You see that 150 kind of, his Might are getting no value because he's not been able to like get anything with these.
Too low to really peak. Quillian
ults.
does get antied there, is going to fall, and Thomas here just kind of just running in, just trying to just get what they can and then just get out.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, hey, if Bookshelf gets one for the road, I'm sure he's not going to be upset at that.
Yeah,
Because Thomas is going to get back
one
pretty quickly, and they're definitely like there's still going to be another fight for University of Michigan's checkpoint. So
exactly.
Thomas is in an excellent spot to kind of finish off this map. Just kind of shut down University of Michigan, because all they have is the Nano and nothing to really throw it on. Maybe you throw it on your Tracer, maybe you throw it on your Ramatra to get some like high damage punches, but you need a target.
I think they're just looking for the Ramatra here. As the overclock comes out, Toby1 just kind of goes in and gets nanoed. Neon just kind of slows up, but Aquilian is purple, does live. The Kitsune Rush coming out, Excavation as well, Killer as well, able to sustain. Toby1 having to use the Excavation, the Annihilation here to make something happen, just to stay alive. Doppelganger does fall in the back lane, and now you only have this Lucio for the sustain. Killer's going to fall, though, a little bit too far in there without any support, not able to get a health back. And now there's only 3 alive for the side of Thomas against 4, so University of Michigan will keep their push going.
It's a dangerous game by both teams because neither team can afford to give up a loss here. Aquilian will get back and now is actually leading the charge down onto the bot to deny this cart progress.
It's going to be a little risky here. Reshu's kind of on an off angle there, as you can see, to try to keep him alive, as well as Bookshelf. They do manage to actually force them off the objective here and start to get a push. Dino does get picked off by Killer. This is exactly what they need to try to get the space back. 13 seconds left. It's the final fight here. This could determine it all. Beat doesn't hit the tank. It does hit the rest of them, though, but it doesn't matter, as Claymore's going to fall right after that. The Beat didn't really do a whole lot except extend the inevitable, and now as the Satellite Vector comes out, Neon's going to find 2. Neon's going to try to find more. Bell coming out. The bot's going to push away from them. Grasstouch is going to be the only one who could do anything. Is going to go get the Mega, try to just get more HP. Is going to go around. Isn't gonna make it to the car, and with that, Thomas is actually going to take away the victory here from University of Michigan. 3-2-1.
GG. I mean, you see just how much like power Killer and Neon were able to put out as DPS there, and Quillian to kind of keep them kind of protected by just holding that such a strong front line. You see here just kind of a cleanup by Thomas here just to finish off these last few targets, but. You know, it was just honestly just an excellent execution by Thomas there, and some pretty questionable usage by the side of University of Michigan to kind of close that last map out. I think probably frustrated by the lack of victory on the Clash map, which, you know, I think that kind of really kind of locked in a lot of the series.
Exactly. I mean, like we said about Watchpoint Gibraltar with the C9, it's, you know, a C9 always can hurt the mentality, but as well as when it looks like you're starting to come back, you know, you're down 0-2, the enemy team, you know, it's like their match point for the map, and then you start coming back, you get 1-2, and then you get 2-2, and it's like, okay, maybe we can make something happen, and then in a nail-biter finish, someone gets picked off, and it pretty much spells doom for your team. And that can really hurt. I mean, it can really hurt for your team mentality. And it looks like it wasn't too bad going into that map, but I think just after not really making too much progress, it's just kind of sucks.
Yeah. I mean, the mental game is only just a part of it. Of course, I think Thomas is like kind of leading kind of composition, like the swap over to the Sombra, just shutting down the ball comp entirely. Like, because like you saw, like their like ball tracer Lucio dive was able to get a ton of value, but the Sombra just kind of shuts it all down, and now it's like, all right, play something else, and it's like, I guess we'll play the Ram, and then Aquilian just kind of keeps walking on all over you. You know, he's shining his boots with the other Ramatra's face. You know, it's
exactly.
There's not much else you can do.
There really isn't, and I mean, especially with a backline like a Lucio Ana, I feel like just like it isn't bad, and it kind of worked here and there, but with the Ajax beats and just like the utility that Kiriko and Juno can provide over Ana Lucio, it's
Hmm.
kind of rough.
Yeah, I mean, they are very susceptible dive targets. Kind of Kiriko, when you get her Bell and TP out, of course now she has the double TP, which is awesome. When you get the Bell and TP out, I mean, she's like very susceptible because all she has is the wall climb, and of course Juno, if you can catch her out while she's flying or after she's kind of used her ring, like they can kind of both can peel for each other, but they can't really peel for themselves, if that makes any sense. The supports. So that's, I think, like if they don't swap over to the Sombra, or if like they can't play the Sombra like effectively, then Thomas, I think, is actually in a really bad spot because, like, just the amount of pressure that can be put onto that support line, and it makes it so much harder for Aquilian and Neon to get value. But I mean, hey, it all works out in the end. Thomas
Exactly.
just a pretty effectively clean sweep on Colosseo, some good ult usage, good gameplay, good swaps, good things like that. Good Overwatch.
It was just all around good Overwatch. I do agree. And with that, we are going to wrap up today's stream. There will be more Overwatch later on Friday. Tune in for most likely the A teams game, as they will have another game Friday, I believe. If anything, we have the B team as well. They also have their games. Tune in tomorrow. League of Legends has another game that determines if they go to playoffs or not. So tune into that, 7 o'clock. I don't exactly know the name of the team that we're going up against, but nonetheless, tune in. And in order to tune in, please follow us on Twitch here on Thomas College Esports. Hit that little follow button down below so that way you can never miss a notification when we go live. And then follow us on Thomas Esports on Instagram, as well as Thomas Esports on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it these days. So that way you can get little posts, little notifications, just all kinds of little daily happenings and all that about what's going on at Thomas Esports. But with that, thank you very much for everyone who tuned in. I love seeing all the support in chat. It's really nice to see. GG's to both Thomas and University of Michigan. It was a really good game of Overwatch that we saw today. A lot of good, close, nail-biting stuff. And thank you, Gargo Tokens, for coming out today and co-casting here. And we will see you probably tomorrow for League of Legends.